Today we're making section B feel simple and test-ready. These are the concepts that show up constantly in BCBA exam vignettes. And if you learn a few decision rules, you'll stop guessing and start answering fast. We'll walk through extinction, stimulus control, discrimination, generalization, maintenance, and motivating operations step by step. And if you want to practice these with real exam-style questions plus instant explanations, you can try a free full-length mock exam at www.bcbmockexam.com. When the exam says extinction, don't just think behavior went down. You need to identify two layers: the operation, what changed in the environment, and the process, how behavior changes over time. Then decide whether you're in operant extinction, reinforcement no longer follows a response, behavior is omitted, or respondent extinction, CS occurs without the US, behavior is elicited. And one key reminder: extinction is not punishment. Here's the shortcut that saves points. Ask, what relationship was disrupted? If the STEM is about consequences after a behavior and the response used to produce reinforcement, you're breaking the response-reinforcer relationship, operant extinction. If the STEM is about a conditioned reaction weakening because the CS happens without the US, you're breaking the CS-US pairing, respondent extinction. And the vignette clues usually make that difference obvious once you look for it. Extinction often looks messy before it looks better, and the exam loves testing whether you recognize that pattern. Expect an extinction burst, temporary spike in rate/intensity, response variability, new forms, possible emotional responding/aggression, and later spontaneous recovery, behavior returns after time. So if you see a graph, look for that classic spike followed by decline rather than a smooth drop. Now let's shift to stimulus control, which is basically, when does behavior work? Behavior is more likely in the presence of certain antecedents because of learning history. An SD signals reinforcement is available for a response, while an S delta signals reinforcement is unavailable or much less likely. And the key idea is availability, not motivation. In test vignettes, keep it simple. Look for phrases like only when, in this setting, or with this person, then ask one clean question. If the response happens right now, is reinforcement more likely here? That's your SD versus S delta decision, and the important nuance is that even if an SD is present, if the reinforcer isn't valuable in that moment, behavior may still not happen. This is where MOs can be the missing piece. A practical way to feel stimulus control is to keep the person the same and change the cue. Requests increase when the teacher is nearby and help is delivered. Then requests drop when a teacher is on the phone and requests are ignored. Snack requesting increases when a cabinet is open/unlocked because access is available. And if reinforcement still occurs sometimes, that usually means weak or inconsistent SD control, not no stimulus control. Discrimination is what happens when stimulus control becomes sharp, responding differently to different stimuli. It's built through discrimination training using differential reinforcement, and you'll often see it described as responding in the presence of SD, but not in the presence of S delta, which is exactly the pattern the exam wants you to recognize. Think of discrimination training as make the right cue worth responding to. You reinforce responding in SD, and you put responding on extinction in S delta, and over repeated trials behavior becomes more likely under SD. When the question says, teach the learner to tell the difference, translate that immediately to this SD versus S delta training structure. This is a classic trap area. Discrimination is different responding under different cues, like selecting ball when asked among multiple items or stopping at red and going at green. Generalization is when responding spreads. So if the STEM says behavior shows up across new stimuli/settings, that's generalization, not stronger discrimination. Generalization is behavior change beyond the training conditions, and the exam usually wants you to label which type you're seeing. So as you read, track what changed. Did the stimuli change? New people/settings/materials, while the response stayed the same, or did the response forms change while the context and outcome stayed similar? Here's the quickest distinction. Stimulus generalization is the same response across new stimuli/people/settings, meaning the response topography stays stable, but the stimuli vary. Response generalization is new response forms in the same context or toward the same outcome. meaning the topography changes but the goal stays similar, and the accuracy trick is to literally ask, what changed? Stimulus or response? BCBA level thinking is knowing generalization doesn't happen by luck. You program it by training multiple exemplars, using common stimuli across environments, teaching loosely by varying non-critical features, and making sure natural reinforcement happens in real contexts. And the exam-friendly takeaway is, generalization must be measured, not assumed. Maintenance is the time dimension. Does the skill continue after teaching ends or supports are reduced? If you see follow-up probe weeks later, after discharge, or after prompts were faded, your first thought should be maintenance. And it's not the same as generalization because generalization is condition change while maintenance is time passing. The fastest exam rule is, maintenance means same conditions, later time. Generalization means different conditions, same skill. Many vignettes include both, so match your answer to the dimension the question is targeting. Time versus settings / people / materials. And if the STEM explicitly says, weeks later, maintenance is usually the first label to check. Motivating operations explain why a reinforcer matters right now, and they have two effects you must keep in mind. Value altering changes the effectiveness of a reinforcer, and behavior altering changes the current frequency of behavior that historically produced it. An EO increases reinforcer value and tends to increase related behavior, while an AO decreases reinforcer value and tends to decrease related behavior. And the key concept is MOs are context dependent. To get extra points on harder vignettes, know the MO subtypes. UMOs are unlearned, deprivation, temperature, pain, while CMOs depend on learning history. CMOD makes another stimulus valuable, missing tool/keys. CMOR signals worsening or aversive conditions and often increases escape value, and CMOS is a surrogate paired with another MO. And if the STEM screams, missing the tool, CMOT should pop into your mind immediately. This is the exam's favorite distinction, MOs change value. Do I want it more or less right now? While SDs signal availability, can I get it here and now if I respond? Both can occur together, so separate their roles. Skipping lunch increasing snack requests is EO, seeing an unlocked snack cabinet increasing requests is SD, and a hard worksheet increasing escape behavior often points to CMOR/EO for escape, depending on how the STEM frames it. If you can do these four things, your Section B accuracy jumps fast. 1. Identify extinction as operation versus process and operant versus respondent. 2. Separate SD versus S delta and recognize discrimination as differential responding. 3. Label stimulus versus response generalization and separate both from maintenance across time. And 4. Apply the MO versus SD rule of value versus availability. Your next step is vignette-style practice with rationales so you learn the why behind every answer and you can get full-length BCBA mock exams plus instant explanations at www.bcbamockexam.com.